Hello everyone, I am here today with a flip-through video. I am doing part 2 of my New York trip from 2024 in March. So I finally have this done. Now I can share the rest of it. And when I did part 1, it wasn't even quite half done. So this second part is a little bigger, so bear with me on that. But this is where we start. I was still in Queens at this time, so this is Gantry Plaza State Park that you're seeing here. And this is actually a flip-out layout. But on this card, I started with the base, but then I kind of made the rest of it myself. I put some ephemera on there and a couple of stickers just to add some visual interest to it. And then it flips out here and you can see all of the inside items, and I got to use a DIY travel embellishment. So I'm happy whenever I can work in one of those. And I just tried to include some puffy stickers that had similar colors to kind of bring it all together, since this green was so bold. Even though there's green here, I still wanted to have a nice mix of color. And then on this side is kind of its own solo layout here, and I just did a quick phrase label there and then did some stamping here because I had some nice empty space where that would work. So after I left Queens, as you can see there, it was getting later in the day. It got dark pretty soon after that because after all, this was early March. And I went to Connolly's for dinner. I needed somewhere that was going to be close to my theater for that evening because I had theater tickets. And that was a good option where I knew I could probably get in and out fairly quickly. So you can see my dinner here. It was delicious, but all I did was just put a label on there. That was kind of it. And then over here, I had tickets to see Merrily We Roll Along with both Daniel Radcliffe and Jonathan Groff, and they did both perform that night, which was awesome. And I absolutely love the show. So I wanted to highlight this and use some of my theater and Broadway things. So I put this embellishment on there. I did some stamping. That's actually all one stamp. It comes like that. And then I did all of these sequins with my fuse tool here. And then on the back, I like to do this just so you can kind of see like what it looks like when those are spread out. But on the back, you can see this was straight out of the playbill. I actually liked that better than the cover. So threw a phrase on there. The sequins obviously show through on both sides, so that makes it pretty easy for that part. And over here, I left this one alone, just the merch area. I hung around the theater quite a bit, so it was pretty desolate by the time I left. Everybody had gone out and they'd sold a lot of stuff. But I wanted a picture of the merch counter. And then I just did a little bit of journaling, and I added these two theater-themed phrases. After the show was done, I just mapped my route back from the theater to my hotel, which was really, really simple. And then I had this fun subway sticker that I had found in Brooklyn, and so I wanted to use that on there, and I had a stamp that said Subway, so I just stamped that. Super easy. And then over here, I love to find new subway art that's fun and interesting, and so I got to see these in the same station. So I just added a fun card, minimal embellishments there. This card was kind of perfect as is, so I didn't even need to do anything. And that was the end of that night, and then here we are starting with the next day. And my first activity of this day was to go to Ladder 8, which is the Ghostbusters firehouse. Since I was staying in Tribeca, it was really close, so I figured I might as well go over there. My husband wanted to see pictures as well, so I did take quite a few photos, and then I found these fun digital cards that worked, and I loved these, being able to include so many of those. And on this one, I will say, I did go back and do a little bit of extra work. I had it all done, except that I did not splatter on the tag. And the more I looked at it, the more it bothered me. Like, it was so stark white, I just couldn't handle it. So I went back and I did the ink splattering just like I had done on the cards here. And I think that was the right choice. Then after that, I took the ferry over to Brooklyn. As you can see here, this starts the Brooklyn section. So there's a nice view of the bridge there as I was leaving the ferry landing. And then I went into Time Out Market as my first thing because I did want to have something for breakfast. I knew I was going to be walking around a lot and that I probably would not stop for lunch. And so I needed a decent breakfast. So I got a bagel sandwich at Essa Bagel. And here you can see I just did some stickers and I just worked it around my journaling kind of. And I used colors that matched what I had going on here. Once I was done at Essa Bagel, I went and just kind of walked the neighborhood, went into a bunch of stores, just really was leisurely and took my time. And then I happened to pass by the iconic photo spot where you can see the Empire State Building through the bottom part of the Manhattan Bridge. So it's kind of hard to see that there, even on a close-up, because it's quite a ways away. But that's the Empire State Building, peeking through there. So I did get the shot. And I did some journaling. I just did a couple of puffy stickers on here, and then this acrylic piece. I did actually go and find the Dumbo sign, so I wanted to make sure that was in there as well. And I did this as pretty much a single layout, so I just added this on to try to match the color here as best I could. I did a little stamping there and called it good. It was not anything spectacular, but I love the way that it looks. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit about being able to explore Brooklyn, and so I did use a 3x4 card and layered it on a 4x4 piece of cardstock with just a little puffy sticker. And on the back, this is a sticker I picked up in the bookstore that I went to, and so I thought, okay, well, I have to include it then because I bought it in Brooklyn and it says I love Brooklyn, so I figured that was pretty fitting. Also in the Dumbo area is Jane's Carousel, which you're seeing here. I did not go on it, but I did step into the building to just look at it because I'd heard it was pretty fun, and I did love all the different designs of the horses and the colors and everything. And then I did a little bit of journaling, and I happened to have the perfect puffy sticker that would work with that. It's a horse from a carousel, so I had to use it. And this is the bookstore that I mentioned. It's called Powerhouse Arena, and so I did keep my receipt. Funnily enough, I did not buy any books there. That's what I went in for, but that's not what I ended up buying. I ended up buying that sticker, or I got 2 stickers, I think. I got the Subway one, and then the I Love Brooklyn, I think. Oh, it only shows one on here. Oh, you know what? I went into a drugstore too, so I think maybe that's where I got the other sticker. I forgot about that. I just went in to look around because it was kind of weird. It was like a half drugstore, but half gift store. Right on kind of on the main drag, Water Street, I believe. So I went in there as well. But then here I got a sticker, and then I ended up buying a puzzle of Brooklyn for my husband. So no books, but other things which were just as fun. But I loved all the colors they had. It was a great mix of pops of color. And so I tried to work in elements where everything would match. I went down to Pebble Beach and hung out there for a while, took some photos there too. I didn't include a lot of those here though, because I knew this album was already going to be really chunky. So I had to pare down on what I could include. But I loved this view from right near the ferry landing. And I had to go back there anyway to catch the ferry back to Manhattan. So it worked out. And then I love this at the base of the Brooklyn Bridge. I did some stamping here. Did the main part in black as I normally do. And then I decided to mix it up a little bit and use brown in there to bring out these tones. And I think that worked out pretty well. And then I just did that little label on the ferry because I didn't really need to say much else, just that I was on my way back to Manhattan. When I did get back to Manhattan, I went right to the Chrysler Building. So I got off at the 34th Street ferry landing, walked right over to the Chrysler Building because it's not that far. And I had never been in there because for a while I had heard you couldn't go in there. And I think they were restricting, visitors, the public, people that don't work in the building for a while after COVID. But now I was able to go in. They are quite serious about telling you to stick to the wall areas. Like you can't cross the main lobby floor and go towards the elevators. That is strictly for people that work there. So you got to obey by the rules, which is fine. But I was able to get in there and I was able to use 2 Chrysler Building cards, which is awesome. And then here's the interior. Very, very Art Deco style, very gold. And so I just worked in some embellishments that I had that I thought would work with that, just to bring all of those different colors together. And after that, I did journal about it here, but after that, I took the subway up to the new gallery to see a Klimt exhibit. And the only bummer about the new gallery is that you can't take pictures in there. So I don't have any pictures to showcase the beautiful, beautiful Klimt landscape paintings that I saw. But trust me, it was a wonderful experience. If you've never been there, I highly recommend you go when you're in New York. And then after that, I wasn't too far from the Church of the Heavenly Rest. And so I thought, okay, I've got a little bit of time to burn. I could certainly go in there and look around. So I did that as well. And I loved the front entrance here. It's quite beautiful. And I use these big words. I've had these for a while, and I'm like, I don't scrap that large of albums really. How am I going to use all these? Luckily, this barely fit at 4 across, so I was able to use that in a 3x4 card. And then I didn't really have anything that went with this, so I decided to just build my own. I had some paper that I thought was passable, that would work. It was at least the right color and a subtle pattern, and then just slapped a small word on there too. Called it good. And then still inside the church, I decided to bring in some purple because this kind of had a purple tint to it. And I had this card, which I thought would be fun, but I wasn't sure what to do with it at first because it didn't include any of this and it felt very plain. So I decided, okay, I'm going to stamp on it because I had stamps that would work to say it's a historic church, which is great. And then I decided, because there were stars in this part of the archway, that I would use one here. And I think that came together well. And then this layout started out as having a whole other row here, but I didn't really need it for what I wanted to do, so I cut that off and I just kept the single row. And I'm really pleased with how that came out. And it adds something different to the album because it's the only layout I have like that. So it's definitely visual interest and something that kind of catches you by surprise as you're looking through the album. And so the only thing I did here was I stamped on this. I didn't use any other embellishments or ephemera, which is great. I don't really think that it needed it. On the back side here, I chose to focus on the stained glass. So I have 2 photos here. This one I just cut in half. And then I had a whole sheet of stickers that are all different types of crosses because when I travel, I tend to see a lot of churches. I just enjoy, the art and the history of it. So I picked one of those that was quite ornate, and I put that on there just to kind of keep with the gold themes that were happening over here. So it carries it through all 3 pages, which I like. And my next layout is actually just a little insert here, just a single 3x4 insert. I went to Gracie's Diner, which is on the Upper East Side, a little ways up, maybe half a mile from where I had been. I just wanted something simple, and a diner sounded good, and I could see that they had a Greek menu. So I was like, okay, that's for me. So I went in there and I was able to get chicken souvlaki, which I love, and you can see it there. And I did not end up finishing all that because you get fries with it. I think there were 2 tomates with it. Like, it was all so good, but it was so much. I just couldn't finish it all. And all I did here was I just put on that little circle embellishment to kind of match the tomatoes, and that's all it needed. Perfect. And over here, this was after I took the subway back towards my hotel, so I was back in Fidei, and I took some night shots, and I wanted to showcase those because I love New York when it's lit up at night. So here's the Woolworth building, you can see that. And then I have some other buildings here in the back, and because of the green tint, I had green here. Also had it in these windows, so I decided to use a heart that was 2-tone, but that still kept with that color theme. And then these kind of holographic sparkly stickers are from Pip Sticks, and it's like a 12-inch strip, and you get all different buildings. And obviously, like, this is Empire State, which doesn't appear here, but it didn't matter. I really just kind of wanted some bold colors and styles, and I think I achieved that here. That was the end of that night, and so then I have very early the next morning, I was catching my train to Providence. So this is Moynihan Train Hall, and I have been in there several times, and I have access to the lounge because I have status with Amtrak, and it's totally worth it, especially at Moynihan. Moynihan Train Hall is the nicest lounge in the whole Amtrak system. So if you have access to it, you definitely should use it. So I went up there, and I got there, I think, like maybe 45 minutes before my train was scheduled to leave because I knew I wanted to get coffee, and you can actually get a full meal in there. They have servers there who you just walk up, you say, yep, I want these 4 things, and they give them to you, and you get as many drinks as you want while you're there, plus whatever you want to take on the train. So I did take some time to just sit and relax. You can see how nice and comfy it is there. Talked about my meal and what I was able to do while I waited for my train. And then here is another view looking out over the train hall, which is so fun to just sit there and people watch. I could do that for hours and be totally fine. And I just talked about saying farewell to New York because it was off to Providence. And that is the end of this album. Originally, I did think I was going to fit Providence in here too. And you know what? That was crazy talk. I don't know why I thought that was going to happen because I know how I am. Like, this is way too chunky to fit those in there. But I will say this, I decided to actually do all of my Providence layouts in Canva. So they are all digital layouts. They will be in a separate album, but it's going to go much faster to put those together because they're already done and all I have to do is embellish. But I did want to show you that I do actually have the label done already as well. So it really is completely finished. So here's another New York trip in the books, no pun intended. Thanks for watching.